everyone, I'm Laura Brown and my account is Mommy and Me Milestones. I am so excited to be part of Early Intervention Week on Instagram, and I want to say a huge thanks to Becky at SLT Scrapbook for hosting this event and for including me. I am really excited about my topic this year. We are going to talk about how to create opportunities to communicate and also how to help the children we work with execute on those opportunities in order to grow their communication skills. I wanted to highlight these 5 ways that we can create more opportunities to communicate for the children that we work with in early intervention. And obviously these are going to be things that we are training the family to do so that they can be practicing these skills all day, every day. So a lot of these would be grouped under what we might consider to be communication temptations. And they are just ways that we can create more practice opportunities so that we can have faster growth in some of the communication objectives that we're working toward in our IFSP. If you've been in early intervention for a minute, you know that using daily routines is a really big deal. And there is a lot of language that we can be modeling as we go about our days. So we really want to be training parents to focus on important words and modeling those words for their kids. And once they've modeled those words a lot and the children are starting to connect those words with what they mean, we can start introducing some wait time and see if the kids can communicate for these events and for these things in their daily routine. So I'm going to give you a couple examples for some words. So for this morning routine, if we wanted to talk about teaching the word up, we would try to really get in a habit of saying up every single morning before we lifted our child up out of their crib. And then once we had kind of established that word and helped our child connect that word with what it means, we might try to pause in that routine and give our child the look, like, can you say it? And see if they can say up before we lift them up out of bed. If we wanted to teach the word out, we would want to pause by the door every morning before we went out and make sure that we pause and say out before we open the door. And then eventually we're going to pause before we open the door and give our child that expectant look that says, can you say the word? And see if they can say the word out. If we wanted to teach the word water, we would make sure to pause and hold up their cup and say water before we hand it to them, and really practice modeling that and saying that word a lot of times. And then once we get established with that routine, we can hold up their cup and give them a look and see if they can say water before we give it to them. And note, they aren't always going to say the word just because we set up the communication temptation. So we are going to talk about what to do if they don't. But first, let's talk about the rest of our ideas for creating these communication temptations. The next idea is to make items inaccessible by putting them out of reach or in a container that they can't open. I know this is really commonly used by a lot of early intervention therapists, but just some simple ideas would be putting their water cup up on the counter where they can't reach it, putting favorite toys in clear plastic boxes so that they have to bring them over and ask for help to get access to them. This is a really simple and effective communication temptation strategy that I find parents have a really easy time implementing. The next idea is to create a silly problem and let your child kind of take the lead to try to solve that problem. And this is also referred to as sabotage. I have called this sabotage in the past, and I've kind of taken a stance on reframing this language because sabotage sounds horrible and creating a silly problem sounds more fun, but it's a matter of personal preference. So an example of this would be giving your child a bubble wand, even though you know that they don't know how to blow bubbles yet. So you would see what they do with the wand. Are they going to try to give it to you? Are they going to try to ask for help or say bubble? And you're just setting up that opportunity for them to communicate in some way. Doing something unexpected is also a really fun and I think underutilized strategy because it really brings in an element of playfulness that we know is so important and can be so powerful. And I have a few ideas like grabbing your child's cup and pretending to take a big sip out of it and seeing what they do, or if just covering your head like this man in the picture, like pulling your hat down and covering your eyes and seeing what they do, or taking their hat off their head and putting it on your head. And this just kind of is an awesome opportunity for connection and for back and forth play, and also gives them a reason to communicate in order to kind of resolve this silly situation. And of course, we can always offer two choices. And I really want to talk about this strategy because I think it's so important to teach parents that we can still offer choices even if the child isn't ready to use a spoken word to select what they want. So let's talk about exactly what to do when we create a communication temptation and the child is not producing a spoken word. It's really important that we use least to most prompting when we are supporting children and helping them execute these communication opportunities. And it's also important that we teach parents what this means, this least to most concept of prompting and giving them extra help to help them be successful. So we're going to start by creating that communication opportunity and waiting and giving them that expectant look. This is the look where you're wide-eyed and you're giving them that cue in your facial expression that you want them to say something. If they don't say anything, we can next try to use a gesture or a visual support. So an example of this would be if we want the child to say bye-bye as we are leaving their house, we could pause at the doorway first, and then if they're not saying bye-bye, we could then add the wave and give them that look and see if maybe then they know to say bye-bye. If the child still isn't saying the word, I really like trying an auditory closure strategy. And one of the examples that I use frequently, I will sing a little song. Time to go, time to go, time to go, bye bye. And then I will sing it again and see if maybe the child can fill in those last two words, if they can say bye bye. So that auditory closure strategy is really effective. You can use it with songs, you can use it with books, you can use it with little phrases like pick me up and see if they can fill in that word up. This is also a stage that you don't want to get stuck on because we don't want our children to be prompt dependent. We want them to be independent and as independent as they can be with their communication. So we're always starting least to most with every interaction so we don't get stuck doing a fill in the blank type thing. We're always giving them that wait time, then trying a gesture, and then moving down this hierarchy to try to continue to make sure that they are having as much independence and ownership over their communication as they can. And finally, if you've gone through these options and the child is still not able to say the word, it's okay. This is an awesome opportunity to model the words you think they would want to say. And I really like the idea of modeling without expectation. And that's what I really try to train families on is just having that language input is so valuable. They don't need to repeat after you. They don't need to do anything in that moment. You are just going to model the words for them, and then you're going to execute. So in the example of bye-bye, executing would be leaving. In the example of pick me up, they're not saying anything. You say pick me up, and then you're lifting them up. So that modeling without expectation is really important. And you are not going to be able to go, neatly through these steps for every interaction, but it is important, just big picture, to be thinking least prompting to most prompting and not getting stuck with any of these prompts. Always trying to move backwards to that wait time to see if they can get the words on their own. I have an entire module on this topic in my first 50 words course where I teach my 4-step framework for first words. So if you want to learn more, or if you're interested in learning that step-by-step process, I encourage you to check that out. Thank you so much for being here and for joining me for this talk today. I am absolutely obsessed with talking about early language development, so feel free to join me over on my account so we can talk more. I also have the first 50 words course, which will open for enrollment again in January. And if you really want to start right now with that course, I just started the guided learning. So send me a message and we can probably work something out. I would just want to say thank you again for being here, and thanks again to Becky, and I hope to talk more soon.